Our story begins with an employee named Linda. Because she looked a bit tired and didn't take care of herself like the other employees in the office, everyone around her treated her with disdain or contempt. Except for Don Zan. He was the only one who talked to her for his own benefit, and he started taking all the reports from her that had been piling up for almost 2 weeks. She works on them while he tells her that the meeting room is small and they want to reduce the number of attendees. At the same time, he reassures her, telling her not to worry about anything. The file has her name on it, so everyone will have to accept it because there is no other option. And when he enters the meeting room, she follows behind to observe the situation from a distance and see what happens. What happens is that she is shocked when he throws the paper, which is called waste, and starts acting as if the report is nothing. She tried to hold herself together, went back home, prepared dinner, and started talking to her friend, pouring her heart out about everything that happened. She kept trying to convince herself that it was okay and that maybe it would be better next time. Because everything will change as soon as the owner's son is going to take over management because his father had promised her that she would become the deputy manager. So she started building bigger dreams and ambitions like getting a higher salary, having more money, and a bigger house. The next day, Linda arrives at the office and hears that Bradley has finally arrived. She was really excited for this new phase and quickly finished her sandwich so she could get going. She wanted to impress the new boss and introduce herself to him. But Bradley is an arrogant young man who thinks highly of himself, so as soon as she stood in front of him, he was extremely annoyed, especially because of the food leftovers on her face. He tried to silence her quickly and went into his office, and the first decision he made was to tell his assistant that Linda had to be transferred to the farthest branch, so that he could eventually fire her completely. At the same time, he appoints Donovan as his deputy, and the assistant tries to explain to Bradley that this decision isn't the best, because the late boss had promised Linda a promotion and told her that she was a genius and that she was carrying all the work on her shoulders. In the middle of the day, Linda notices that the relationship between Bradley and Donovan is very strong and that they're quite close. They laugh and joke together. The employee sitting behind her confirms to them that they really are friends and tells her that they graduated from the same university and play together every holiday, and he appointed Donovan as his deputy. At this point, Linda breaks down inside because this promotion was her last hope. She quickly gets up and goes to Bradley's office to try to understand exactly what's going on. She says to Donovan, "He's been here for 6 months and I've been here for 7 years. She asks, "In your opinion, who deserves the promotion?" He realizes that she's upset, so he answers her calmly and coldly, saying, "You are one of the smartest employees we have and you're great with numbers. But you're missing the most important thing, which is social communication. We need someone who knows how to deal with people, or at least someone who understands when their words." He sensed that it was hard for her, so he tried to lighten the mood by suggesting that she travel to Bangkok to work on a project there, because there's a big problem there that needs to be solved. And he tells her, "If you can solve this problem and prove me wrong, then the deputy seat will be yours." At that moment, Zoe walks in dramatically and congratulates her on the engagement. She quickly returns to her office and gathers her things so she can leave before she breaks down and cries in front of everyone. So she leaves, gets into her car and talks to herself, reminding herself that she has to stay strong and that she can prove herself on this trip. On the last day, at the airport, Bradley was sits with Donovan and the rest of the team waiting for the flight. Suddenly they see Linda. She's carrying her suitcase full of enthusiasm, determined to prove to them that she's up to the challenge and can handle it. Bradley gets annoyed, because he actually expected that she would come and that they would leave her alone on the plane to work on her tasks while they got started themselves. They all gather together because Donovan was showing them Linda's videos that she had posted on her page, and since everything about her is strange, even her interests, in the videos, she was even weirder, so they kept laughing at her loudly. But she was wearing headphones and had the volume turned up to the max, yet she could still hear their laughter. Out of curiosity, she took off her headphones and was shocked because it was her video that made them laugh, so she felt broken inside and deleted all the work she had done. She started crying, and suddenly there was a malfunction on the plane and it began to shake violently. And since half of them weren't sitting in their seats, they didn't have time to get back and fasten their seatbelts. And because of the force of the shaking, the airplane door was ripped off and everyone was thrown out except for Domfan, who was holding on to Linda's leg tightly and telling her to give him her seat. He was so desperate to leave her that even her seat, it was about to come loose, and when she felt that his grip on her would kill her, she grabbed a fork and stabbed his hand so he would let go, and he fell. At that same moment, the plane crashed into the sea and Linda unfastened her seatbelt. Quickly, she got out of the plane and swam toward the sea. But the next morning, Linda regained consciousness. She found herself on the plain of a deserted island, with nothing around her but the sea and sand, and on the other side, there was a forest. She tried to grasp the situation quickly because there was no time, so she walked along the seashore hoping to find someone who could rescue her. Suddenly, she saw Bradley lying on the ground unconscious, so she ran over to check on him and discovered that he was injured in his leg. At that moment, she made sure he was still alive, so she dragged him to a tree so he could lean against it. After that, she started using all the survival skills she knew to make sure they were safe, so she built a small shelter. She protected them from the sun and gathered coconut shells. She left it here in a pit so that if it rained, they would have drinkable water. As for Bradley, he remained asleep until the next day, and when he finally woke up, he was still trying to process what was happening. Linda brought him water and told him, "Unfortunately, all your friends have died. It's just you and me left." After that, she continued her day, looking for a way to make a fire so they could cook food on it. And indeed she succeeded and was able to grill the fish, clearly feeling happy about it. As for Bradley, even though he was upset, he couldn't help but be annoyed by her and her cleanliness. But he was forced to eat in order to survive, though he ate with disgust. And when the sun set, as the sun set, Linda was sitting by the sea, gazing out, and it was clear that she loved the place. But the next morning, Bradley saw Linda coming out of the forest, looking happy, and she told him, "I found a snail." She explained to him that there are different types, but this one tastes amazing. At this point, he reached a stage of boredom with life, utter boredom. The caveman that she's so happy about, so he asks her, "Haven't you thought about sending out a distress signal or writing something in the sand? At least write the word help so maybe a plane will see us, or someone will come and find us, or even set the forest on fire, for example." She calmly replies to him saying, "The most important thing for me right now is to survive and provide food and water." So he loses his temper and deals with her angrily, telling her, "What is this, Olinda? This is the limit, because this place isn't work, and he's not her boss." So she can't take it anymore, gathers her things, leaves him and walks away, leaving him alone so he can realize that without her he won't be able to do anything, especially since his leg is injured. And he can't stand up on it, so he laughs sarcastically and tells her, "Don't forget to take the snail." Time passes, hour after hour, until the day ends. Then a storm hits. He gets thirsty and can't get up to get water, so he keeps shouting. In a moment, Melinda decides to come back, but not because she wants to, only so he doesn't die and she's left alone. Alone, she gives him water and he apologizes, saying, "I'm sorry for my rude behavior and for yelling at you. I'm also sorry about the promotion, the one you lost because of me. And all of them were wrong decisions." She tells him, "I found a wild boar in the forest. I'm going to hunt it because we need food, and this boar will be enough for us for almost a whole week." And indeed, she goes and sneaks into the forest following the boar's tracks. As soon as she gets close, it attacks her, so she quickly climbs up a tree, and with a single leap, she jumps onto it and plunges an arrow into its body. But it doesn't die and tries to attack her, but she keeps hitting it until it finally dies. Now, she returns to Bartolo, carrying the boar's head to prove it, because she's up to the challenge, and here, for almost the first time, they sit down and eat together like two friends sharing a meal. They laugh, and the next evening she continues her journey through the forest and finds a waterfall. She's overjoyed because now they have a permanent water source. She goes in to swim, happy, but suddenly hears the sound of a boat. She runs excitedly to the shore to call out to them, and suddenly she falls silent and freezes in place because she realizes that if they rescue her, she'll go back to her old life and return to being alone. The life she was living, so she stays quiet and goes back to Bradley, who had reached a point of anger. He says, "We've been here for almost 2 weeks now." He asks, "When are we going to get out of this place?" So she replies and tells him, crucially, they must stay optimistic, but he snaps, "What optimism? Just endure this? Let's build a raft and escape to safety." She tries to appear enthusiastic and tells him, "That's a great idea, but what are you missing? You have water and food and I'm taking care of you." At this point, he realizes that she actually likes the situation. She wants to continue her life on this island, so he decides to distance himself from her to prove that her presence doesn't matter to him. He makes himself a tent and writes "help" on the beach with palm leaves, but during this time, eventually he breaks down without food or water. Reaching that stage, he starts eating insects, finally returning to Linda, humbly telling her, "You were right, nothing beats companionship here." Even though she didn't really understand his intention, she agreed to forgive him and let him eat with her. After that, she takes him on a tour of the island, shows him the places where they climbed the mountain, and points out the fruits. Then she signals to him, to a place that's shaped like the letter X, and she tells him not to go near there because it's full of thorny bushes. These bushes are dangerous, their plants are poisonous, and there are harmful insects. She warns him never to go there. Then, as they're heading back, suddenly, a part of the mountain almost collapses under Holland, but she tries to hold on to the ground. Bradley quickly grabs her, pulls her up, and saves her. And from here, a new page begins between them. She trusts him more and brings him some fermented fruits. These fruits were rare, and she offered them as a way to thank him for saving her life. At night, Bradley sits and tells her about his childhood. He grew up in a home without affection. His father was a laborer, and his mother was harsh, only caring about her appearance. That's why he's always tough, because that's how he was raised and what he learned. So she understands him and starts telling him about herself, saying, "I was previously married, but her husband died in an accident," and she begins to explain, telling him, "My husband wasn't the best husband because he was an addict, and every time he got drunk I would hide the car key so he wouldn't drive the car. Until one day we had a fight and he made a big mistake against me. So I gave him the keys while he was drunk. He got into an accident and died." Her eyes fill with tears as she tells the story, saying, "You're the first person I've ever told about this." The next morning, Linda wakes up, washes up, and sees Bradley swimming, so she immediately turns her face away, and then a storm breaks out and the rain is so heavy that even the tent they set up collapses and the trees fall, so they quickly run and take shelter in the cave to protect themselves from the rain, and they stay there until nightfall. When Linda wakes up, she finds herself alone. She gets scared and thinks that Bradley has left her, so she runs through the forest until he appears and tells her, "I just went out." After a while, she goes to look for breakfast, and he suggests that they build a new tent, but this time farther from the sea so it will be safer. She takes the opportunity to teach him how to make a tent by himself in the future, so that if something happens and she ends up alone, he can handle things on his own. After that, they start walking together in the forest, and he tells her, "Today I'll make dinner and you can rest," which makes her happy, and she feels that he's starting to reciprocate her feelings. At the end of the day, he brings her food himself, and suddenly, while she's eating, she feels very dizzy and collapses to the ground, unable to move. At this point, everything is revealed. Baratel takes advantage of the situation, takes the boat she made, and tries to escape, and we find out he had put a harmful substance in the food to get rid of her because he was sure she wouldn't let him escape. Here, the effect of the substance on Linda was mild, because she started vomiting everything while she was still conscious, and also his plan fails because the boat is weak, the waves overturn it, and he gets thrown back onto the shore, sick and helpless. He regains consciousness and tries to go back and talk to her in a gentle manner. He says, "I was just afraid I would die here without seeing my family, and I didn't mean to hurt you." Strangely, she acts completely normal with him and coldly replies, "I understand your situation, but you should have increased the dose so it would actually affect me." But instead of that, she decides to go and make him grilled octopus, and as soon as he eats it, his body starts to go numb and he can't move. And here, she leans in. She explains to him that the octopus contains a substance that affects the nerves. She tells him, "You won't be able to move until the effect wears off." She did this so she could get her revenge calmly, so she grabs a sharp tool and heats it up. Over the fire, she starts grilling it, and he tries to endure it, but he can't defend himself because he's almost paralyzed. After 2 days, Bradley was still upset with her and wouldn't talk to her. She tried to start a conversation, but he ignored her, so she left him and went into the forest to look for food. While she was looking, she saw a boat approaching the shore. It was her fiancé, right? She was shocked because she wasn't ready to give up her new life, so she started acting naturally in front of them. She said to them, "Where have you been? You took so long." And Zoe replied, "I rented a boat and searched for you. I searched all the islands and finally managed to find you." At this point, she gets a wicked idea. She decides to get rid of them and make them leave. She sends them toward the mountain, which is the same dangerous hill, so when Zoe walks there, she falls. But the man tries to catch her, and quickly they call Linda to help them, and she rushes in to save them. If she gets rid of them and preserves her new life, she returns alone to Bradley. After that, she didn't know what happened to Zoe, but it was obvious from Linda that she was depressed. She isolated herself for 2 days and didn't talk to anyone. At night, she hears Zoe's voice calling her from the water, and suddenly Zoe appears in front of her and asks, "Why did you do this to me?" At this, Linda breaks down and tries to hit her. But suddenly she realizes that Zoe isn't there. It was just a hallucination and imagination, and then she wakes up from her sleep. The next day, Bradley goes out hunting. He sees something coming out of the sand, so he gets closer and is shocked when he realizes it's Zoe's hand. He recognizes it from the ring, breaks down, and goes back to Linda to confront her while she tries to act innocent. She tells him, "I don't know, I just wanted to save her, but she fell." But Bradley doesn't believe her and sarcastically says, like it was an accident. He brings out the prisoner to kill her for your sake. But she realizes that talking is useless, so she runs into the forest. Suddenly, someone jumps on her from a tree and tries to kill her. But he was stronger and hit her, but she fought back and hit him. They keep fighting, each one hitting the other. So she takes Zoe's engagement ring and swallows it, and he attacks her, but she tried to stab him, and suddenly, Bradley disappears, escapes, and enters the area, Zone X, where he is surprised that there are no insects or poisonous plants. On the contrary, there is a huge palace, so he runs and enters it, finding food, water, and everything available. Suddenly, he hears Linda's voice from the earpiece and she tells him he finally arrived, but she warns him and tells him not to. She searches for the weapon because she has all the weapons, so he realizes that she was playing him from the start, and Linda reveals this to him. She tells him that everything we thought we couldn't do, we actually can. We could have left a long time ago, but I saw a boat and didn't call out to them. And that she doesn't want to go back to her old life, and she admits that she has lived in the palace for a long time. She had been watching him and giving him food so that he would fall, and she tells him, "I used to imagine my life with you, but you ruined it." But he breaks the cameras and tries to reach her, but she continues talking and tells him that even with Zoe, she didn't mean to kill her. "But I hit the guard with a stone and he fell along with her, and that's what I did." So that she would move away, and then she tries to convince him and tells him it wasn't a coincidence. The two of us survived because we are meant to be together. In the end, she points the rifle at him to kill him, but he tries to act remorseful and tells her, "I'm sorry, let's start over." She believes him and lowers the weapon, telling him, "I love you." But at that very moment, he betrays her and hits her, but she was expecting it, so she hits him with the tire iron and kills him without any hesitation. A year after all these events, we see that Linda is a completely different person. She plays golf and participates in a celebrity tournament. Her story spread because she survived alone all that time, and she took advantage of it by writing a book about her experience, and then she announced that she is now working on a second book about self-development, and her goal is to help people. In the end, we see her living her life normally as if nothing ever happened, and to this day, no one knows that she was the reason behind the deaths of 12 people. So, dear viewer, everything you saw and heard is from the movie scene. The end.